KatrinasCreations. This is episode 84. If you are a returning viewer, thank you for coming back each week. If you're a new viewer, thank you for stopping by, and please click the subscribe button if you've enjoyed this video and want to come back each week. There's a little bell next to the subscribe button. If you click on that, you will get notified anytime I post a podcast, which is normally on a Saturday. However, if I get something in for Knit Crate or something like that, I throw a little midweek video up as well, which is what's going to happen this week because I have a Knit Crate that's due in on Tuesday. Actually, it's 2 Knit Crates. This will be the sock Knit Crate, the artisan sock Knit Crate, as well as the membership Knit Crate, which is the one I pay for. So yeah, check it out. That should be coming in on Tuesday, so there should be a video up probably Wednesday or Thursday. So let's get started. I don't have any finished objects, although I'm wearing one that I finished last week. This is the Ate Chic. It is a like a little collar type of accessory. I'm not going to be wearing it this entire podcast because it is wool and I'm filming in my upstairs craft room, which is really hot right now. So if you see me break out in a sweat, that's why, because I turned the air conditioner off because I didn't want the sound to interfere with the video. So that being said, this is the Ate Chic. It's about 60 inches long and you can see it's fairly narrow and it's just meant to kind of wrap around, as you can see what I've got on it. So let's get started with the works in progress this week. I was working on my cozy memory blanket and I put 3 squares on this week. I did this blue one. This is a yarn that I dyed and I just used food coloring. So I put this one on and then I did this one and then I did this kind of pearl gray and it kind of goes to a little bit darker tan here. It is a variegated, it just doesn't show up a whole lot. It's not a whole lot of changes in color at this point. So it starts out a pearl gray and kind of goes to a tan. So that's the 3 blocks that I have in my cozy memory this week. So I've been doing that. And as you know, I've been working on 2 different sweaters. Actually, one's a sweater, one's a cardigan. And so let's see the sweater first. And it's a sleeveless, well, it's little cap sleeve sort of with it, unless I have extra yarn, then I'll put real sleeves on it. Otherwise, it's just a drop shoulder type of summer sweater. And it is knit out of a cotton bamboo mix, so it's very, very soft. Here's my marker where I was at last week. So I've knit about 2 inches, sort of. I have separated for the sleeve, so that's where the marker is actually where I actually, is the shorter side. This side you can see, this is where the sleeves are starting. You can see I've got a button band right here, which is not a button band, it's just a rib stitch that's going to be around the outer portion of the sleeves, just to give it a finished edge, because if you just leave it as a stockinette, it will roll and curl, and I don't want raglan sleeves like that. So I want my edges finished. So I'm doing just a garter stitch, 5-stitch garter stitch on the edge. So this is part of the arm. So I've knit not only the stitch marker where you see here, I've also knit an additional just on this side. Where'd it go? Did I drop it? No, I'm in the middle of a row. Of course I'm in the middle of a row. So I've knit an additional probably 1.5 inches above what you saw with my stitch marker. So I'm knitting this in the round and then just splitting it in half. I'm not even putting the stitches that I'm not using on a holder. I'm just knitting with them on the other side, just letting them hang down in my circular needle on the cable. So that's that project. Then I have the Barton Cardigan, which I have shared before many, many times, and I've separated for the sleeves on that one. So On the actual body of the sweater, I didn't really do anything this week. You can see I've got a stitch holder here. These are the reserve stitches for the sleeve. And then on the other side, I have another stitch holder holding the reserves on this side. This sweater construction's a little different. I assumed that I would be picking up the stitches around the armhole and knitting from the shoulder down. But it's not. You actually set this portion of the sweater aside and you knit the sleeves separate and then attach it, and then it gets incorporated back into it's gonna pick this up the stitches that are on the stitch holder and then incorporate back into the pattern and the yoke. So I haven't gotten anywhere with those. I started with the cuffs and realized looking at it that this sweater has 3/4 length sleeves and I really don't want 3/4 length sleeves. So I had gotten about 2 inches up the sleeves and realized that I was just going to make the pattern longer. But when I looked at them, I'm going to have to kind of rewrite the pattern a little bit because I don't want really wide type of bell hanging sleeves because they snag and catch on everything. I want something a little snugger closer to my wrist. So the sleeves at that point to start to do the 3/4 length sleeves, you have like 72 stitches, which is twice as big as what I need to go around my wrists because I have a big body, but I have little wrists. So I need about 32 stitches to go around my wrist. So I ripped out what I had done, and at this point I've just got the cast on, and I'm having to kind of reconfigure as I go to think about how I'm going to do it. So actually I ripped it out twice. This is try number 3 to try to make these sleeves a normal length because I just can't see the point of having a warm wool sweater and only put 3/4 length sleeves on it. It looks nice in the picture, but I want full length sleeves. So hopefully I'll be able to kind of finagle that because you have to keep it in the pattern with the cables and everything. So yeah, I'm actually doing the cuffs. I'm doing a ribbing stitch around the cuffs, and then I'm cutting out the cable on the lower part of my arm, and I'm just doing this lace section with a garter in between, and then I'm gradually, as it kind of gussets out to get to the full width, because I'm going to have to increase by 32 stitches. That's when each round I'm going to start increasing stitches until I get the full width of the cable here, which is 13 stitches. So by the time I get to the full-sized cables going around, I should be back up to the 72 inches that I need by the time I reach my mid-arm. And this is coming off now because it's getting entirely too warm. And it's a very rustic yarn. Rustic meaning scratchy. Rustic just makes it sound better. So it's actually irritating my neck a little bit. I'm not allergic to wool, but it's just, this is a little bit scratchy. So, and seeing as it is wool, I would probably wear it with a turtleneck, so it's not going to bother my bare neck like this one is. So then I have my crochet project. I finished another full skein of yarn. Here's where I was. This is the center in the back. So this is the lowest tip of the shawl, because here it is here. Let me see if I can hold it back a little bit. Let me roll back some. So here is the tip of the shawl, and then these are the sides. So let me bring this up close so you can see where I was at last week. There you can see my little, it's supposed to be like a little jelly cake. There it is, right there. So I've done all the way down to here, all the way down to here, and all the way across. So I have one more skein to go, and I am loving this. This is done out of 100% cotton, but it's really, really soft. And this is the final color. And I will finish this week because there's only like, I think 197 yards, where the skeins for this, I had 2 skeins and I think they were around 300 each. So I should be able to whip through this week. And so my virus shawl, and that's what the name of this is, it's the virus shawl. It is a free pattern on Ravelry. This is how the colors are going to look with this. And this skein of yarn here has all of the same colors this does, except that the gray that is in here, you can see some of the gray. See if I can open it up more. There, you can see the brown goes to a gray. All of these colors are in this skein of yarn, except the gray then goes to some blues and a darker blue and then into a deep charcoal. So this is what's going to end the shawl. When I get to my acquisitions, I will share with you the next crochet pattern that I'm looking at doing. Hopefully, we'll see. The next project I think I'm going to make with my crochet is going to be this pattern. It's also free on Ravelry. There's a picture of it. It's a very simple pattern. It's called the Mobius Shawl Wrap and Hooded Cowl, and it's because in this picture here she's got it just tipped up over her head a little bit. This pattern is by Donna Wolf from Nastasia. I'll put it in the drop bar here so you can see it. And it's actually, it looks like it's just 3 rows or rounds that just keep repeating. And a Mobius is basically a circular, almost like an infinity scarf, but bigger, and it has a twist in it, which you can see right here. So it kind of looks like an over. If you were doing knitting, it reminds me of a bunch of yarn overs. So the thing that made me choose this is because there are YouTube tutorials on this, and if you're brand new to the channel, I'm brand new to crocheting. So I need something where I've got somebody demonstrating things. So I'm sticking to something easy. I'm not sure yet what yarn I'm going to use. I need to look through my stash because it does call for a, I believe a DK weight. I think it's a DK weight. And it calls for roughly 500 yards. I think it's 400 to 600 yards is what the pattern says. On here, it says it calls for 3 to 4 skeins of 124 yards each. So yeah, somewhere around 400 or more yards. So I need to look through my yarn stash and see what I find that will work with this and go from there. So that's going to be my next crochet pattern. I've got a week to try to find out which yarn I'm going to use because it's going to take me a week to finish up the virus shawl that I'm working on. Then I printed out, this is also a free pattern. This is called Galaxy. That's what it looks like. And I'm actually knitting it in the yarn that they recommended. This top part here is all like a garter. It only gets busy around here on the at the bottom with the lace. And I believe it's an entirely charted pattern. Some people, oh, it's got it both. It looks like it's got it both. It's got chart and written because a lot of people like charts. A lot of people prefer written. I'm kind of indifferent. I like either, so I'm not picky that way. But that's going to be knit with this. It's called Katia Darling. I showed this last week. So the yarn itself is not a new acquisition. I got that last week, but printing out the pattern is. But I love the colors with this. See, it kind of goes from all different shades of a burgundy and a bright red, and then it goes into charcoals, and then it goes into a black. It just reminds me of a campfire. It's just really, really pretty. Yeah, there you can really see some of it. So, and that is the Katia Darling is the yarn that's recommended for this. And it's not a huge shawl. It's kind of like a shawlette or a shoulderette. So it's just going to be something small. And I have 2 skeins of this. So that's the pattern I'm going to be doing that with. Then I bought some more yarn, of course. Now, I actually have a skein of this already, but I only had 1 skein. And while this has a lot of yarn in it, it is 100% wool, 3.5 ounces, 100 grams, but there is 437 yards or 400 meters. This is a fine, it's not lace. I wouldn't call it lace. I'd call it a light fingering. I had one skein of this and knew that if I did anything with a shawl or anything that I would need 2 skeins. So when I was at the yarn shop the other day, she only had 2 more skeins in the same color. So I thought I'm going to grab it before it disappears and then I can't get it anymore. And then I'm stuck with trying to figure out what to do with one skein of yarn. So not sure what project I'm doing this yet, but it's just really pretty spring colors. And it kind of has in some spots a marled look. Let's see if it's going to get picked up. You can see it a little bit. You can see some of the stripings. It kind of looks like a barber pole. You can see the colors twisting in. They're so pastel and light that they're not showing up real well. But right in here is where it is. You can see a little bit of it. So I do have some beads. I have some little pearly iridescent beads that whatever it is I do with this yarn, these little beads are going to go on it. I think it'll look really pretty. So that was my other acquisition. Then I kind of obtained something. I didn't buy this. My mother gave me some yarn. She has a knitting machine that she's made sweaters and things with, and it's all computerized. You just basically hit the button, tell you the pattern, and it goes. But she wanted to do some hand knitting. So she went out and she bought, I'm not sure what this is because I don't have the ball band. It's very thick. It reminds me when I was a kid, they used to sell yarn ribbons that were like this, and they came in different colors, and you put your hair up in ponytails and tied these kind of big giant shoestring looking things in your hair. If you're my age in the 50s, yeah, well, no, not, I wasn't born in the 50s, but I'm 55. If you're around my age, you know what I'm talking about. You'll remember these things. So it's about like that. But this one, I love the colors. It's different colors of tan and black. And my mom started knitting a shawl. Now she's just doing garter stitch. She's not a tight knitter. I've looked at this and it's, you know, the stitches are pretty even. They're not loose. They're not tight. She got this far and went, it's really stiff fabric that it's creating. She says, if I try to put this around my neck, it'll be like a neck brace because it's just really stiff because it's so thick. So she gave it to me and said, just do whatever you want to with it. So I have no idea. I mean, whatever I make, it's going back to her. So I think if I make this a little narrower and maybe a little lacier, it will be a little more pliable to put around your neck because this is really stiff. If you put this on there, it could hold your neck upright. It's really soft. It's some kind of acrylic, but I have no idea what it is. I'm not sure where she even got it. I'm sure it was somewhere, either Walmart, Joann's, or Hobby Lobby that she got it at. And she's knitting these on size 15, US 15s. And I'm thinking maybe if I went up a needle size, that might help it a little bit too. I'm thinking I might make her like one of those cowls that crisscross in the front with some pretty buttons on the front, like some brass buttons on it. To see how nice the needle looks with this color. I'm thinking brass buttons with this would look really pretty, and just kind of a buttoned cowl because there's not enough yarn here to make a scarf. So that might be what it turns into, and I might just make it narrower at the neck and then wider in the front. We'll see. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with it, but it'll get fixed and given back to her hopefully before she needs it in the wintertime. Right now it's 82 degrees out. She's not going to need this anytime soon. So that is my acquisitions. Now we have some show and tell. I have a couple of pictures from our subscribers. Yoka sent a picture of her spinning. She has a Louette wheel. I have a spinning wheel as well. I haven't done spinning for a while. I want to get back into it. I just haven't done it. I have an Ashford traditional wheel, and she has a Louette. And so I'm going to insert a picture of her bobbin with her spinning on it. And then Bev has been a busy bee despite trying to take care of her dog and her husband, who both had surgery. So she has been working on a sweater, and she's working on the sleeves. Must be a sleeve thing because both of my sweaters I'm at the sleeves, and Bev has joined the sleeve crew because she's doing sleeves now too on her sweater. She's also piecing a new quilt. So, anyway, I'm going to insert those pictures from Bev. And then Fran over on Facebook posted a shawl that she crocheted, and I forget what it's called. Forget the name of it. It's really pretty. It's got like chevrons on it, and it says in the thing, I'm trying to remember what the name of it is. I cannot remember. I will put it down here somewhere what it's called. But it's got like fringe on some of the points, and it has some chevrons, and it's really pretty too. And if it's crocheted, actually, I wonder, Fran, if you're watching, let me know if it's something a beginner could do. If it's crocheted, let me know if it's something you think I could tackle. Something that has videos I can watch, because I need somebody to help me. So that is from our subscribers, our show and tell time. If you have projects you would like to share with everybody, you can join our Facebook group. It is Katrina Knits over at Facebook. Just request to be a friend and I will friend you, and then you can start posting pictures, and we'll share them with other people as well. And yeah. Or if you don't have a Facebook and you don't want a Facebook, but you want to share your things, you can send me a picture at KatrinasCreations@yahoo.com. And you can send a picture that way, and I will post it on the podcast as well. So if you're making something fun or something that you think I might be capable of handling on crochet, let me know. Knit-wise, I've got lots of patterns to choose from. Crochet, I'm a little narrowed down because I just need the very basics. So I thought I would also do a little reading nook this week because I haven't done one for a while. And I've been reading two different yarn involved mysteries. For those of you who've been watching for a while, you know that I like to watch or read cozy mystery books. I work for a library, so I read a lot. But I like cozy mysteries. Now, a cozy mystery is a murder mystery without all the blood and guts and gore. So if you remember the 1980s show Murder, She Wrote, that's kind of like what a cozy mystery is. It's not the main character is not a detective. They're just your normal average person. So I like especially reading ones that involve knitters or crocheters. Now there's lots of knitting mysteries out there, but there's not that many crochet series out there. So I will recommend for those of our crochet group that would like to read cozy mysteries that involve crocheters, there's one by a lady named Betty Hechtman, and it is called Crochet Mysteries. And it's about a group of women that get together at the local bookstore and do their crocheting. And one of the characters, Adele, is pretty comical because she thinks everyone should crochet, and she has some outlandish outfits that she always parades around so everybody can see her artistry. We'll say it that way, artistry of her crochet. So they're a cute series, but the two that I've been reading this week are both knitting related. One I was listening to, I couldn't find the book form of it. It is called the Black Sheep Knitters Mysteries series, and Black Sheep is the name of the knitting shop, and the owner's name is Maggie, and there's 5 ladies in the knitting group, and they decide that since one of their knitters is getting married the next weekend, that they should get together for a knitters retreat for her last weekend fling. So they go away to a resort to have some knitting time together, and of course a murder takes place, and so the 5 ladies start to try to solve the mystery. So that was the first one that I've been listening to. Actually, I just finished it yesterday, and it was very good. The author is Anna Canadio. I'll put it right down here. And I think there's about 7 or 8 books in the series, and I think the one that I listened to might be the last in the series. I could be wrong, but it kind of sounded like they were tying up some loose ends. So we'll see. We'll see if another one comes out. Then I found a brand new series. This is the first book in the series. It's by Peggy Earhart. There is her name. And the book is called Murder, She Knit. And it's been really cute so far. The series is going to be called A Knit and Nibble Mystery, because that's what they call their knitting group. They have it at someone's house, and they knit, and whoever's house it's at has to bring snacks. So yeah, this one's been pretty good. I'm about 50 or 60 pages into it so far, and there's been a new lady invited to the knitting group, and the new lady ends up dead on the front yard with a knitting needle stabbed through her. So like I said, you don't see the blood and guts, you just hear what's happened. So anyway, it's been really cute. So and if you're looking for clean mysteries, generally cozy mysteries, for the not all the time, but for the most part, they're usually clean, as far as like no language or anything like that. So this has been cute so far. Hopefully it will be the rest of the way through. I'd hate to recommend a book and then find out, it was nasty. So so far it's been great. I'll put it that way. So far the book's been good. So and this is the first one in a series apparently that's going to start. So that's my reading recommend. Now we are going to do a cardigan sweater tutorial. One of the subscribers asked if I would do one, and I said yes. I said just give me a couple weeks to get it put together. I actually did a sweater without a pattern tutorial quite a ways back, and I will stick it up here in the you'll see a little eye. Just click on that and it'll take you to that. That particular sweater was done where you had to seam the sides. It was done in pieces and then you put it together. And it's not, what I'm going to share with you is not a pattern itself. It's actually more of a formula to create your own cardigan. Now, here in the US, just to confuse everybody, we lump everything together as a sweater. I'm not sure why, but if somebody is cold and they're outside, they might go say, I need to go put a sweater on. You don't hear people refer to them as cardigans all that often. I mean, they do, but they kind of, sweater can mean a sweater, or I guess over in Europe you call them jumpers. We would call that a sweater, but a button-up we also would call a cardigan or a sweater. So if you hear me refer to something by accident as a sweater, I am talking about a cardigan. But just force of habit, I might say the wrong thing. So let me explain a little bit about what this is. Like I said, it's a formula. You can put whatever pattern or design you want in it. It's just to help you put together. You can do just something in stockinette if you wanted to, which is what I'm going to show you. You'll see it back here. That's one that was made by what I'm going to talk about. So the first thing you're going to need, there's some steps. The first thing you're going to need is I guess I should tell you what kind of sweater this is too. This is boxy, okay? It does not have a whole lot of shape to it. It's not going to be form-fitting under the arms. It's basically a square box sweater. The sleeves are the shoulders are going to be dropped off of your shoulder unless you have extremely wide shoulders. So just be aware of that ahead of time. If you're more into shaping your sweaters, you could modify this. If you're that experienced of a knitter, you're probably not going to want a simple pattern like this anyway. But for those of you who want to do something that's very simple, very basic, this is the easy way to go. It's a boxy drop shouldered garment. I'm getting my notes so I don't forget anything. Your first step is going to be to choose your yarn. You can choose any weight. You can choose any fiber content, whatever you want to do it with. On average, a sweater is going to run you, depending on your size, anywhere from 1,000 to 2,000 yards. I use close to 2,000 yards because I'm big up top. And well, actually I'm big all over. But anyway, yeah. Anyway, I take the higher yardage. If you're small, you'll take the smaller yardage. I mean, I'm sure there's some people that will go under 1,000 yards, but That's on average. Okay, it's going to be between 1,000 and 2,000 yards to do this. The next thing you're going to do is choose your hook or your knitting needles, because this formula that I'm going to give you, you can use with crochet or knitting. Okay, you want to plan what size hook or needles will work for the fabric that you buy, or the yarn that you buy, so that it comes out to the thickness that you want, or the density that you want. For instance, with this one, you can see that you can't really see through it. I forget what size needle I used, but I just kept knitting back and forth with it and did a little swatch until I got the size needles that I liked what I produced with it. Okay, and the same would apply to my cotton sweater here. I knew that I didn't want something that you could see through. I didn't want to have a fabric where I had to wear a shirt underneath it. So I played around with what needle size until I got something that was dense enough to produce the fabric that I wanted. So that's totally crafter discretion there as far as how loose or how tight you want your fabric to be. So once you've chosen your hook or your needles and your yarn, you want to knit a swatch. Now, most of your patterns are going to recommend a 4" by 4" swatch. I've never knit a 4" by 4" swatch. Confession time. I knit roughly a 2" by 2" because that's pretty much all you're really going to need to figure out your gauge. So let me show you what you're going to do with it. Here's my swatch that was for my Barton cardigan. Now, you're going to knit a small swatch, roughly 2" by 2" is probably plenty. It gives you the idea of what you want. You want to knit your swatch or crochet your swatch in whatever pattern you're using for the main body of your cardigan. So if your main body of your cardigan is going to be stockinette or double crochet, that's what you want to do your swatch in. You don't want to do it in garter and then do your main body in stockinette, because it's not going to work right. It's going to produce a different size and it's going to throw your gauge off. Once you have your swatch, you want to block this. You want to wet it and stretch it out to what you want this to look like, because that's going to be the gauge that you're going to base everything on. Now, if you're knitting with or crocheting with acrylic, it's really, you don't really need to block it, because acrylic doesn't stretch out all that much that is going to really make a big difference. It stretches a little, but not a huge amount. But some of your natural fibers can really, really stretch out. So you're going to block your swatch. Then you're going to use a ruler and you're going to measure across here 1 inch. And you're going to count how many stitches are in that inch. If you use metric, you're going to count how many within a centimeter, but you're going to count how many stitches are within that inch, and you're going to write that down. Then you're going to count how many rows are in 1 inch, so that you have, this will tell you how tall you're going to need to make it, how many rows you're going to need, and where you're going to have to divide to put your arms in and such. So once you've got your formula and you've measured all of this, the next thing you're going to do is use a tape measure. You're going to measure the circumference, or all the way around, of your widest portion of your torso, whether that is your top, your waist, or your hips. In my case, sadly, they're all very close, but you're going to pick the widest one, because you don't want it to fit in one spot and pull in another, so you want to go for the widest spot. So you're going to measure that. You're also going to measure from the back of your neck to however long you want your cardigan to be, whether it's going to be cropped or whether you want it to come down over your hips or you want it to fall at your waistline. Wherever you want it to fall at, you want to measure and write down that formula as well. And then you also want to measure under your arm to the length of where your cardigan will end. So those are the different measurements you're going to need. Then you are going to put this together. Now here's my little formula. I'm basing this on this swatch, which was 5 stitches to the inch and 4 rows to an inch. I did not do my girth, okay? We're going to pretend that my hips are 40 inches around. A girl can dream. So, it was just the easiest. So if I have 5 stitches per inch and I have to go around 40 inches, you're going to multiply this together, and that tells you you're going to need 200 total stitches cast on or chain stitched, chained. You're going to start with 200 stitches. Okay, then to determine how many rows my cardigan is going to be from the top to the bottom, we're going to pretend that it was 25 inches, and this is about the true, but about 25 inches from the base of my neck to where I want the base of my sweater to fall. So take 25 inches, multiply that by 4 rows per inch, and that tells me that I'm going to need roughly about 100 rows to complete my sweater from the top to the bottom. So then, this is kind of how this is going to break down. I am not an artist, just in case you couldn't tell. This is a diagram. The zigzag here is representing the rib stitch, and this is the button bands on the sweater. You can knit this on circular needles or straight needles. And of course, if you crochet, it's not going to matter. It's all going to be the same. When you start your rib stitch, you're going to cast your 200 stitches on, if that's the size, like our example is 200 stitches. I'm going to cast 200 stitches on, and let's say that I'm going to knit this in a worsted weight and I'm using a size 8. When you knit ribbing stitch, because it opens up bigger than your stockinette stitch, you want to go down a needle size. And I'm not sure because I'm not a really experienced crocheter, but I would assume the same applies with a crochet. If you're doing a ribbing type of crochet for the base of your cardigan or sweater, I'm assuming you're probably going to want to go down a hook size with that. If I'm wrong, let me know. But I'm taking a guess that the material's going to, the yarn's going to perform the same way. So you're going to do your rib stitch however long or however tall you want it to be, and then you're going to go into your pattern across here. And in this case, I decided that it was, how many inches did I decide? That it was 100 rows from the top to the bottom, and that to go to where my underarms were from the base was going to be 60 rows. So when I hit 60 rows, this is what this little dotted line is representing. Then you're going to divide your work into 3 portions. Okay. You're going to put this and this on a stitch holder. Or if you're crocheting, you just want to kind of mark those so you don't get into these sections. You're going to work on the back first. And in my case here, because this is 60 rows, and I know that I'm having 100 rows from here to here, this portion I know is going to be 40 rows. So I'm going to stay in pattern until I get up to right at the base of the neck. Now you don't want the top of your neckline to be straight across because it'll turn funny, it'll curl at the base of your neck. You want to have a little bit of a dip. So what you do when you get up to this portion, you're going to divide your work in 3 again. So at this point I would have 100 stitches, because here's my 200 broke down. It's 50 on one side, 50 on the other, and the back is 100. So I'm going to divide this down, and 100 divided by 3, it's going to be 33, 33, and 34 I'll make in the middle. You're going to knit across section 1, knit across section 2, or crochet across, and then you're going to bind off these center stitches right here. So you're going to completely bind those off, so you're only going to have live stitches here and here. You're going to knit these up a couple more rows and bind it off, and then you're going to pick up the stitches on this side that you had on a holder, You could put them on a holder, or you can just set them off to the side. You're going to knit these stitches up the same amount of rows that you did here. Okay, then it'll be bound off at the top. Then you're going to pick up your stitches one of these sides at a time, and you're going to continue knitting. Now this side's here, you'll see these button bands. I incorporate mine. You can put them in afterwards. In my case, I don't. I knit across. Out of these 200 stitches, I knit 190. I put 5 of them as a button band on each side, so that takes me to my 200. And for the button band, it's just garter. This is just garter stitch, and then whatever pattern I'm doing in between here. When I get up to the top of the sweater, this is going to be the portion that's going to fold over. That's why this is the front. One of these is going to have buttons and buttonholes on the other side, if you choose to put them in. I don't always do buttonholes. Sometimes I just want my sweaters just kind of hanging open. I don't tend to button my sweaters anyway. This is where it would come, like where it slants down here. That is that portion of the neck here. So this portion depends on how high or how low you want that neckline to be. I did a V-neck here just to kind of demonstrate that you're going to be at 50 stitches going across. And when you get here, you're going to start doing decrease stitches, but you want to make sure that you maintain those button band stitches within that decrease. And then when you finish all this, you're going to do the same thing to this side and bind off your stitches. Then you're going to fold it over on itself and sew the shoulder seam to the shoulder seam and the shoulder seam to the shoulder seam. At this point, you would have a vest or a waistcoat, as they call it. I think that's how the Europeans refer to it, a vest or a waistcoat. At that point, you're going to attach the sleeves. Your sleeves are going to go right in here because you're going to have openings right here. Now remember, you've already attached your shoulders, so this is going to be open. You're going to pick up the stitches there, and again, you want to measure. If you can measure your arms if you want to make sure that it's going to fit, but for the most part, you just pick up the rose stitches all the way around, and you're going to continue in pattern until you get it to the length that you're going to need for your arms. Now remember, this is a dropped sleeved cardigan, so when you figure out the length of your sleeves, you're not going to be measuring from your shoulder. You want to wait till you get the vest done, put it on, and see where the edge falls, where that shoulder falls for the dropped shoulder, and measure from there down to your wrist. And then you can determine, using the formula, how many rows you're going to need. And you're going to want to decrease those, unless you want great big open bell-armed sleeves. You're going to want to taper those sleeves. All you're going to do as you're knitting around and around, as you go down the arm, or if you're crocheting around, you're going to do your decreases, and you're going to decrease in the underside. That way it doesn't show. And then when you get to the ends where your wrists are, again, you're going to transfer back to the smaller needles or smaller hook to do the ribbing at the end, so that it looks right and it stays more elastic. So now let me show you one that I have done so you can kind of see what I was talking about. This is my back. I did this on a circular needles, and then I separated them, so there is no seam under my arms. You can see right here, it just goes straight across. I started at the bottom, and here is my ribbing stitch. It doesn't show up real good because it's in navy blue, but there's my ribbing stitch. There you can see it. It's just about a 1-inch strip. I did it in stockinette. This is my blanket edge, or not blanket edge, this is my button band edge all the way across. So I was knitting, let me take the hanger off here, I was knitting straight across all the way until I got to the underarms, which is right here. That's when I split my front, the two fronts from the back, and you'll see I came up the back. Here is section 1, Mine is much more than 200 stitches. But anyway, this is section 1. And you can see I've got the seam right here where I seam the shoulders together. You can see this, the little dip I talked about. These were the stitches I bound off. And then this is the other side. And then on the front, they're both identical. Again, this is where I would have split. And I have a V-neck front here. It's curling a little bit because this has not been blocked and it's been in a closet for a while. But here you can see the V-neck. I'm going to try to hold it up against the back here. See if I can do it this way. There's the V-neck, and you can see where I decreased. Because it's stripes, you can really see where I did the decreases. And I maintained this pattern as I went. So even though I might have had a decrease stitch, and then I would continue to knit 5 in, and then the next row would have a decrease, and I would still knit 5 in on the garter. So the button band was actually moving in with the decreases. And there it is up to the shoulder. And here is my shoulder seam. I'll flip this inside out. That's where I seamed it together. You can see it right here. Right there. And then I picked up the stitches. Let me turn this inside out. You can see where I picked up stitches. And this was 4 different colors of yarn, so you're going to see a lot of ends hanging out here. But this is where I picked up my stitches all the way around. There you can see them. You pick up your stitches from the right-hand side. If you're crocheting, you're going to crochet from the right-hand side to pull the stitches through to pick up. Otherwise, the seam will end up on the outside instead of the inside. Now this I just made a short sleeve because this is a cotton sweater. So this is not full sleeves. These are dropped. So these come down roughly to my elbow. Even though it doesn't look like it, my shoulders are not this wide. So this hangs off of my shoulders about 2 inches. And then this portion is about 8 inches. So it's almost to my elbows for the most part. So here you can see the sleeve. Oh, got an edge I need to weave in here. And again, I have the ribbing on this edge. So hopefully that will help you. Like I said, it is not a sweater pattern per se. It's a formula to create your own sweater or cardigan. If you don't want it to be divided and you just want to do a circular sweater and not open it up in the middle, you can follow the same pattern, just knit it as a loop and then divide it, which is what I'm doing for my gray cotton sweater. I'm following the same pattern. I'm just dividing it at the top, but it won't be open in the middle. So hopefully that I hope I explained that well enough for everybody. If you have questions, just ask me. I'll try to explain what I did with it. This week's sales, let me fill in what's going on with that. Craftsy is offering up to 50% off of some of their yarn. That could be a good deal. All of the links to what I'm going to share, I am an affiliate with these different companies, and you can click through the link down below. If you see in the description box it says show more, if you click the little show more, it will drop down and it will take you, you can click on links to my Ravelry page, to the Ravelry group, to Facebook, to Pinterest, and to all of these different sites I'm going to tell you about. And if you happen to order through that link, I do get a commission out of it, just so you all know. So anyway, like I said, Craftsy is offering up to 50% off of some of their yarn. Lion Brand, which is Orchard Yarns, is offering 25% off of their 24/7 cotton. So that's a good deal. Knit Picks, I might have to put an order in for Knit Picks because Knit Picks is running a sale on their palette yarn. Now I made my Keeping You in Stitches shawl, and I made that same shawl in a solid color. I got both of it's kind of a turquoise color. I gave it to my mother for Mother's Day. Anyway, I made both of those out of Knit Picks palette yarn. It's 100% Highland wool, and it is 20% off, so a skein of yarn from them is $3.03. And actually, one of my Cozy Memory squares are made from Knit Picks palette. This is Knit Picks palette. The shawl I made my mother was different shades of this gold. And I think, do I have the yellow? Yes. There's the yellow. It was done in this yellow and a gold, and then a deeper gold. So it's in 4 different colors. Yeah, and here's the other one. I think there's only one color missing. So Knit Picks palette, it's 100%, like I said, Highland wool. It's very soft. It's not like scratchy wool. It's definitely something you could wear against your skin. And it's like a fingering weight. So I think I might be putting an order in. And then I ran across another craft place. It's called Annie's Craft Store. And like I said, the link is down below. And they sell yarn. They also sell knitting patterns and crochet patterns and quilting things. And they also have a clearance section, and they're running 20% off their clearance section. So, yeah, if you want to check any of those out, like I said, links are down below. It'll take you right to them. And this week I should be getting my knit crate in. This should be the last week or the last month that I get the second knit crate box. If you're new to the channel, Knit Crate is a monthly subscription box of yarn that I pay for. And then they reached out to me, and because I had a YouTube channel, and said, would you like 3 months of free yarn? I was like, yes, please. Yes, please. So anyway, they sent me three months subscription of a sock, their sock subscription box to review and to like share with you guys on YouTube, so you could see what their yarn is like and what their products are like. And so I should have those 2 boxes coming in this week, and so I will film that, and that video should be up probably, I'm thinking Wednesday or Thursday is my goal. So I'm excited because every month it's like party in the mailbox, waiting to see what I'm getting, because you never know what you're going to get. And so far I've been happy with pretty much everything I've gotten, and last month's I was especially happy about. So if you would like to see some of those past unboxings, I do have a playlist of them. I'll put the link up here and you can check it out if you want to see what kind of things you get out of Knit Crate. And Knit Crate also is offering, and it's in the links again below, a 20% off your very first subscription box if you want to give them a try. So that's it for this week, and I hope you have a lovely week. I hope it cools down a little bit because it's really warm, and it looks like we're going to get a thunderstorm sometime this evening. Just what we need, more rain. If you live on the East Coast, you're aware of this. If you're not, the East Coast has really gotten hit with a lot of rain lately. And in the news, Ellicott City was talked about. My husband used to work for Howard County, which is where Ellicott City is. So that's about an hour away from us. So we've gotten a lot of rain. We're tired of rain, but and thunderstorms and yeah, all that kind of stuff. Anyway, that's it for this week. If you've enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up, and I will see you again next week. Watch for that midweek video this week. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye, everybody.